Napalm was never going to be a band that used that fantasy imagery.
Course,
it's not Napalm as a band, you know. It didn't come from that mindset.
Barney, to start, I'd like to know something about your background growing up in the United Kingdom, a place that has a queen.
Yeah,
Still.
unbelievably, a monarchy, yeah.
I would like you to talk about how was it like for you to grow up in that place, and how did you get into music?
Compared to some people, it wasn't as difficult for me. My dad always worked away. He was not much in the country when I was young. Yeah. So my mum kind of took care of us, really. So my upbringing wasn't as deprived as some people were. Mm-hmm. But we went through the problems of Margaret Thatcher and deprivation of many things. So it was tricky, you know. But there were many plus points in my life, music being one of them.
Is there any album like a life changer?
Motorhead. What it was, my dad was a really big music fan, and he introduced me to a lot of things that were already there, but I just didn't notice because I didn't, you know. But then as I started to find my own way, he gave me, like, rock music was his thing. You know, he loved Black Sabbath, Electric Light Orchestra, you know, and then Focus, Bebop Deluxe, like right across the spectrum of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I liked some of it. Some of it I didn't care for particularly. So I was kind of finding, you know, what I liked really. And then when Motorhead came along, you know, sort of for me, kind of mid to late 70s, it just blew my mind, you know. For me, it was the first extreme music band, really, unintentionally. Yeah. You know, they were faster than anybody else. They were nastier than anybody else. They were dirtier sound-wise than anybody else, and that really did something for me. You know, so that was really my ultimate reference point. You know, from early on, and then it just went from there. I clearly was searching for heavier and heavier stuff, and then punk music came along. Not the first generation, but the next generation after that, really, of punk, and really made a lot of changes for me. You know, not only in terms of the sound, but also the ethos, you know, the ethics. You know.
How was it like for you to develop your vocal style, your vocal range?
It just kind of happened. There is a technique, but a lot of it's to do with anatomy. You know, I'm lucky that my anatomy...
Breathing.
Well, breathing is one thing, but also I think the way your muscles, and of course everybody's different, so everybody's muscles work differently. I was able to produce this sound that was, you know, just something, you know, and it worked pretty well, you know. And I mean, so at that point it was what it was. There was a development later on, but it didn't come till later on, until I maybe figured out that I wanted to be versatile. You know, that it's not selling yourself short to be able to do different things within the style that you do, you know.
Did you have any problems with vocal cords?
Once or twice, but nothing significant, you know, because I sing like a traditional singer from the bottom of the diaphragm, you know, so if you do that, you're not going to put all the reliance on the throat, you know. There is a certain amount of it for sure, otherwise you wouldn't, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I usually can take the strain off that. The things that affect me really, certainly in gig situations, adversely, is people fucking smoking in venues. I mean, that's the worst thing like possible. A few years ago, in Spain, actually. I'd had a succession of gigs where people were smoking, and there's like you've got the things in your lungs, the aeoli, I think they're called. It's like they're like kind of like cauliflower things in your, and it got really infected, and it
due to the smoke.
Yeah, due to smoke. And like I was just going on stage at one particular gig, and I found I couldn't breathe. You know, this is after several days of being secondary smoke. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get a breath. And actually, they were so concerned they got an ambulance, you know, and I had to have like oxygen and stuff. And it totally, I couldn't sing for 5 gigs, you know. I was really having trouble breathing, you know.
I can imagine.
So that's a problem, you know. And, you know, what I would say is, of course, I don't wish to tell people what they should or shouldn't do, you know, but it would be really helpful if people sort of didn't smoke at gigs and stuff, you know.
It would be good.
It would be helpful.
When you joined Napalm Death, heavy bands were talking about satanic stuff. Like inverted pentagrams and so, and you guys came up with political idea.
Yep, that's where the band came from. You know, I mean, Napalm was never going to be a band that used that
day by day.
Napalm was never going to be a band that used that fantasy imagery.
Course,
it's not Napalm as a band. You know, it didn't come from that mindset. You know, I mean, you can call it political or not. You know, what it is to me is a humanitarian kind of free thinking sort of experience. It's not to do with the fantasy side. In fact, you know, the idea of Napalm, as far as I see, is that we're there to put ideas on the table. We're actually there to expose stuff that people should know about. I mean, what do people want? You know, do they want people to understand humanity and to actually be human, you know, or do they not want that? I'm putting ideas on the table. I'm saying what my solutions would be to these things. Whether people agree with that or not is something else. But I think it's most important in the first place for me, as a member of Napalm Death, and even if I wasn't in Napalm Death, it's really important for me to put those ideas on the table. I don't want to be the sort of person that goes through life without looking what goes either side of them. You know, I believe in trying to achieve an equal world. You know, I don't think it should be reasonable that some people in this world are very comfortably catered for, while other people are waking up every day not even knowing whether they're going to be able to eat, or B, whether the job that they do is going to kill them, you know. So that's my concern, you know, as a human being first and foremost. It just so happens that I'm lucky enough to be in a band that where I can put forward those ideas, you know. So that's what I'm going to do.
Have you ever thought of an alternative to capitalism?
If you criticise capitalism now, it's like people are like, you know, really, you know. But why should it not be criticised? It has enforced this hierarchical pyramid, you know, in the world, to where, like I say, some people are in the top segment and others are in the bottom. Well, do we have to accept that?
Yeah, the distribution.
Yeah, are we not as understanding now as human beings? To understand that we can do things differently if we really want to, you know. It's just that things that are all powerful in the world convince us that you have to have this, you need this, and you know, the world cannot run in any other way. Well, of course it can. You know, if we've got this far, then there are alternatives, you know. I'm not a necessarily economist or economic scientist. I don't know exactly how things run. I have a certain idea, but I don't necessarily know. But I do know that if we are striving for a more equal world, then it has to change. It's unsustainable right now, you know, the way things are. So it might look very nice on the surface in some parts of the world, but it's not for everybody, you know.
Going back to music, is there any band that caught your attention?
I couldn't pin one down to pin any bands down at the moment. That really comes down to the fact that, to be honest with you, the past few years, I've been so focused on Napalm, been quite single-minded about that, and I've missed out on a lot of new stuff, you know, up-and-coming stuff, which is sounds a bit jaded and sounds a bit bad, really, but it's just the nature of things, you know.
And you're not listening to extreme stuff when you're
Yeah, of course I do, but it's mainly the older stuff, you know.
Not mainly. Music has to be good, right? Not the genre.
Yeah, it can be like, look, everybody's ears tell them different things into what they listen to and how they react and respond, you know. I'm no different to anybody else in that way.
And do you guys already have a title for the next album?
No,
or
nothing yet, no.
How does it work for you? Do you imagine a concept and then you...
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, here's the ironic thing, is that I always kind of say to myself, oh, you know, every fucking album turns into a concept, and I'd like to do it differently and have like no concept, you know, and just have it very loose. Not conceptualized, but then it just turns into a concept without even trying.
One way or another.
Yeah, so one way or another, you know.
What can we expect for the next album?
Everybody's spoke about it, but I don't know. Realistically, it might not, you know. So, but I'm not going to rush it. You know, I'm not going to be under pressure by anybody. Me personally, it will come when it comes. You know, and that's it. You know.
Still an enemy of the music business, like the industry, like doing things for yourself.
Doing things the way we want to do them, you know. And even though we debate ourselves within our own band, you know, we'll do things how we see fit, you know. And if there are things that we don't want to do, then we won't do them, you know.
Remember of Jim Carrey, like getting by your vocal range?
Yeah. I mean, that was, to be fair, that was just really it's just a cultural reference point. That's all it is, really. You know. I mean, there is something else connected to that, which maybe people don't know about. It's the fact that the original Ace Ventura films, you know, apparently he wanted Napalm Death to be in the thing, you know, but we sort of didn't opt for that, you know. So
the besides and rarities, how do you guys select the music? It's just something that you guys are putting together for some years, like recordings and stuff, and you guys, it's time now to share it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff. You talk about the compilation thing that's coming out. Well, a lot of the stuff's already been on stuff, but it was only there for a while, and then, you know,
and then,
you know, so yeah. I mean, it's been there for years, you know, but it has appeared on stuff, all of it actually, but some of it very short time, you know, and then gone, you know. So hopefully there's enough there for people to get a fresh, you know, a feeling from it, you know, hopefully, you know. I'm always a bit, to be honest with you, I'm always a bit sort of wary about compilation albums, because what I certainly don't want to do is I wouldn't want to put stuff out there that's already been out there, you know, and people are like, oh, really? You know, it's just a caching, you know. Hopefully it doesn't come across that way, you know. There is some stuff on there that people won't have heard, actually, the whole idea of repackaging stuff continuously over is not my idea of, you know, good things.
I know. just opened the space for you to send a message for your fans in Brazil.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, you know, as ever, thanks for the support. You know, it's you know, Napalm was one of the first, you know, to do Brazil, you know, international, as you know, avowed sort of general scene or ilk, you know, and yeah, we've had some interesting experiences in Brazil over the years, you know, but it was always vibrant and fun and challenging and just about every adjective you can throw at it. So, and then, you know, kids always came out to support Napalm. So
what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you set a gig in Brazil, when you have a show there? What's the first thing that comes to you?
Well, I mean, you know, here's the thing, I find it difficult to separate countries out sometimes, you know, because the world over people are really no different from each other. You know, that people are enthusiastic at gigs and stuff. But yeah, the experiences are always positive, you know. I mean, I will mention this is perhaps not such a positive thing, but the first time I was in Brazil, I actually found a dead body on the street, you know. Really? Yeah, in Sao Paulo, you know. It was a guy who, but you could tell, you know, he had like scars, needle scars on down his arse. Well, I mean, whether he was like addicted to drugs or whether he was like a medical patient, I'm not sure. But yeah, I found him in the middle of the street, and everybody could see him, you know. And I was like, I kind of thought to myself, if I remember rightly, I said to this guy, look, can you give him some dignity, you know, and like move him like somewhere? And everybody just like stepped over him, you know. And it kind of, what it said to me at the time was that life in living, you know, can be cheap sometimes, you know, and I felt really bad for that guy, you know. I don't know what his experiences were, like I say, but it was, it was a real, left an impact on me, you know, quite a bit.
Man, I thank you very much for your attention to us, for your time.
Yeah,
thank you, man.
No problem, thank you.